Hello everyone. Today's video is going to be a little bit different. It's going to be, instead of unboxing baseball cards, it's going to be a little bit of a story. And this is going to be about the baseball card store I visited in 1996 that got me into the hobby for a second time. Now, I started collecting baseball cards when I was in 8th grade, and that was right at the beginning of the junk wax era, and it was going great for several years. It was mostly then my parents would be buying cards for me, or my grandmother, and so I was getting a lot of baseball cards when I was in 9th grade, 10th grade, or so. But then, about the time I entered in the upper years of high school, I wasn't collecting quite as much. Now, maybe the 1994 strike had something to do with it, although it bothered me, but not as much as it bothered a lot of other people. But there for a couple of years, I just wasn't collecting as many cards. Now, when I was a senior, a freshman in college, I started dating my wife, and she was a Reds fan. But at first, we weren't really collecting baseball cards together until that summer. My parents and I took a small vacation. We went up north, and we were passing through the town of Cave City, Kentucky on I-65. That's kind of in the Mammoth Cave area. And while we were getting lunch, my dad found a brochure. Let me pause the story for just a moment and talk about my mom. Now, my mom was really into scrapbooking, except she never actually made the scrapbooks. Instead, she just saved memories of everything we did as a family, and so every time we'd go on a vacation, she'd save a brochure or a business card of pretty much everywhere we went. And she passed away a couple of years ago, and I'm over the last couple of years, I've been slowly going through some of her boxes and realizing most of those things I don't need to keep. But I came across this brochure, and it brought me back. I hadn't thought about this place in ages until I saw it. Now, there in Cave City was a sports card store called Abner's. And for whatever reason, she decided to save a couple of brochures and a couple of business cards from Abner's. My dad said, hey, you want to stop at a baseball card store? This is a vacation. We only have to make it to Indianapolis tonight. And take some time and look through, and you're like, oh, okay, I'll check it out. And it just happened to be the kind of store that I liked at the time. Since I wasn't really going in for the Griffey rookies, I wasn't looking to spend a lot of money. I liked the Rangers, and other than Nolan Ryan, they didn't have anyone that was worth anything. And so we stopped here at Abner's. Let's take a closer look at this brochure. A large selection of single sports cards and supplies. No single sports card priced higher than Beckett price. Well, you can tell it's a store and not like a flea market, because most flea markets would be like half book or 70% off book or something like that. So spend $10, get 10% off book. They also had Mammoth Cave stuff, leather belts, music boxes, and there's a cute little logo. Can tell that's some 90s graphics right there. Open year round. There's Abner and his wife. Other side says the same thing. Take a look at this business card. Exit 53. I looked this place up. They've been out of business. I don't know when they went out of business, but it was certainly a long time ago. And because otherwise, on other trips up north, we would have stopped there before. So I don't know how long they ran out of business, but this visit was 24 years ago. It was in 1996. So they had lots of commons, and I'm the kind of person that goes through and looks at all the commons because, most of my Rangers are commons, and I don't just like collecting the stars. I like collecting pretty much anyone who is a Ranger. The cards that I have laid out right here are not ones that I bought that day. I wouldn't be able to find those. These are just the kinds of things that I would have found there. And my wife was kind of similar. She didn't really purchase a lot of cards. She just took them from her mom, who they were both Reds fans. And so the 1990 World Series Reds team wasn't that far behind us. And that's back when the Reds had, let's see, Jose Rio was still around, still had Barry Larkin. I think that's when they had Deion Sanders at the time. So I picked up some cards for her, picked up some for myself. I hadn't collected anything for a couple of years, and so they didn't just have Topps and Upper Deck and Score. They had all of the crazy stuff that all these brands were starting to sell, like Topps Embossed, or who remembers D3, which was kind of like a Sport Flicks kind of thing. There's even some Sport Flicks that came out then. So I was able to pick up a lot of cards of all of my favorite players that I had that I hadn't bought any cards of from the last couple of years, and I thought that was great. So, like I said, these aren't cards that I actually purchased that day, but they're the kind of things that I would have picked up, and these are all from about 95, 96, and they're just ones that I happen to have lying around. But I'm going to start with this 95 score highlights of Kenny Rogers when he pitched the perfect game, and I'm glad that I found this one, because it just so happened in 1994 I attended the perfect game. That was very lucky on my part. During those years when I would go back to Texas and visit my extended family once a year, we would go to one game a year, and this was the fourth time I ever got to go at a game, and it was Kenny Rogers, and I picked the right time to be in Texas, I guess. So this card is highlighting the Kenny Rogers perfect game. So that was great. It was the first year of the ballpark in Arlington, and that's when they were getting sellouts all the time. That's when they were leading the league with a losing record, and that was a key game. Just looking at some of the other stuff we have right here. Here is a 1993 Score Select. Normally it had a green border, but for the rookies, they made it a blue border. And this was from the traded set, so 42T. Also Select, here's a 95 Select of Dean Palmer. He was the slugging third baseman of those days. Here we have 94 Flair. This was produced by Fleer, and of course this was a very glossy set. Interesting artwork. We'd have a couple of different pictures there on top of it. It was a very thick cardstock, very glossy, foil stamped, all the things you could hope for from those years. 95 Select. Here we have a Rusty Greer rookie card. He was a pretty good hitter back in those days. He was the center fielder from the Kenny Rogers perfect game, and although he wasn't good enough of a fielder to be a center fielder, he did make a game-saving catch in that game. Here we have a 96 Bowman, and this is what Bowman looked like in 96. Don't think Cliff Brumbaugh ever turned into anything. Here we have a Select Certified. So this was kind of a precursor to Chrome, I guess, except it was the Select version of Chrome with the Benji Gill. Here is a 95 Fleer of Bill Ripken. Yeah, he was a Ranger for about a season or two. Fleer cards for a couple of years. That year was pretty weird because they had a different design for each of the 6 baseball divisions. And so this is the AL West division, just kind of crazy looking there. Here is a 95 Pinnacle, another one of Dean Palmer. And then another premium set back then that you might not remember is the EXL. And I think that was part of Fleer Emotion, but that was, I guess, a premium set where they had kind of the thicker border. Kind of reminds me of an insert that Gallery would do today, but yeah, kind of the thicker border there. Looking on the back, we've got Dean Palmer again. So that was just a trip down memory lane. That second time of liking baseball cards, that got me and my wife back then for dates. We would go to the flea market, and we had a favorite card dealer out there, and we would just buy a lot of cards from him. Or anytime there was a card show in Nashville, we would go to that. We ended up going to, after we got married, we ended up going to the National in Chicago one year. And so that part of my baseball card life started in 96 and ran through about 2007 or so. So hope you enjoyed this little trip down memory lane and looking at just a few of these mid-90s cards. All right, thanks for watching. Bye.